This is an updated no BS guide on how to progressively build the skills to become a cloud security professional. The job titles for that are Cloud Security Specialist, Cloud Security Engineer, Cloud Security Architect, and so much more. Those are highly paid, in-demand jobs worldwide. The plan doesn't require you to have any prior technical skills or degrees because we will build those skills block by block. But more importantly, I will explain to you what cloud security really is, because most people are actually confused about what cloud security actually is in the real world. You can use this roadmap in one of two ways. One, as a standalone roadmap to get you from zero all the way to land your first cloud security job. Or if you've been following one of my other roadmaps in my videos, then you can use this roadmap to add cloud security skills to your portfolio. And I'll show you how to do that shortly. But more importantly, this video is not entertainment. People who watch my videos and follow the roadmaps that I post, they land their first cybersecurity jobs. I get success stories like this every single day from all over the world, from individuals just like you who followed advice on my videos and landed their first cybersecurity job. So this is a really comprehensive and important video, and I want you to be taking notes as I go through this video. I broke this video into 5 parts, starting with the most important question that we're all asking. Which cloud platform should you learn? Should you learn Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud? To answer this question, I need to give you a rundown of what organizations actually use in the real world. I work in cybersecurity consulting, where I help organizations with their cybersecurity problems worldwide, and this is what I see every day. And I know this stuff is not in your books or in your training courses, but from what the industry is currently using, Amazon AWS is still the dominating cloud platform when it comes to what they refer to as compute. This basically refers to servers or computers in the cloud. So when organizations want to put a server in the cloud or they want to put a virtual machine in the cloud, more often than not they end up using Amazon AWS. I also have seen a lot of lift and shift. This is where organizations literally lift their servers in-house and they put them in the cloud. And for that, Amazon AWS remains the king. So if you're trying to work in cloud security, then learning Amazon AWS is a no-brainer. But if you think that you can sleep on Microsoft Azure as a cybersecurity professional, then you would be mistaken. Because when it comes to Office applications like Word, Excel, and SharePoint, then Microsoft Azure Office 365 is the absolute king. The majority of organizations run some sort of Microsoft Office 365. Now, so many cybersecurity incidents and investigations that I've been involved in have actually involved some sort of Microsoft Office 365. So as a cybersecurity professional, this is not something that you can ignore. Another important use case for Microsoft Azure that I see quite often is organizations love to use Microsoft Azure for Windows servers. And that's because licensing is a bit cheaper when you use Microsoft Azure for Windows servers. But that's not all of it. Another huge use case for Microsoft Azure is their popular Microsoft Power BI tools. These are business intelligence tools, and Microsoft Azure seems to be dominating in this area. So as a cybersecurity professional, you cannot go wrong with learning Microsoft Azure. But what about Google Cloud? Google as an organization is an absolute powerhouse. But are they prominent enough in the cloud space? Well, to be honest, in the cybersecurity world, Google became a force that you cannot ignore, especially after they acquired Mandiant, which was one of the most prominent cybersecurity firms in the world. However, the Google Cloud platform is still relatively small when compared to Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure. Every now and then I'll come across an organization that uses Google Cloud for specific use cases. In fact, recently I've helped a massive bank in the UK with a cloud security assessment, and they happen to be using Google Cloud for some of their services. Now, from what I've seen in the industry, the majority of organizations, when they use Google Cloud, they seem to use it for their big data and their analytics platform. Google Cloud seems to be good in that area. But what does this mean to you? If you're someone who's starting from zero and your goal is to land your first cloud security job, which platform should you learn? Well, the good news is once you learn one cloud platform, the 2 other cloud platforms become so easy because all of those cloud platforms work pretty much in the same way. They just have some variations in their naming conventions. Now, with all of that in mind, in order for you to maximize your chances to land your first cloud security job, I recommend you at least learn Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure. Google Cloud is something that you can come later to. Which brings me to the second part of this video, Amazon AWS security. Now, if you're starting from zero with absolutely no IT background, no technical skills, and no degree, then the best starting point for you is the Google Cybersecurity Cert. Remember, we're trying to learn cybersecurity and cloud at the same time. Therefore, an understanding of cybersecurity fundamentals is non-negotiable. Now, the Google Cloud will give you a broad introduction to the fundamentals of cybersecurity, but it will also cover all your bases when it comes to IT background, especially when it comes to networking and operating systems. Not only that, but the Google Cybersecurity Cert will also give you a chance to learn Linux, Python, and MySQL, and you get to practice them on a hands-on lab. And this will be the first of many hands-on labs that you will be doing as you're embarking on a journey to grow your cloud security skills. Remember, cybersecurity is a practical field. It's like driving a car. You cannot learn how to drive by reading a book. You need to actually jump in the car and go in the roads and learn. Now, our next step will be to learn the Amazon AWS Cloud fundamentals. Specifically, we need to learn what the cloud is, why we use it, and how do organizations pay for it. We will learn all of that when we study for and pass the AWS Cloud Practitioner exam. This is not an overly technical exam. It will just introduce you to what the AWS Cloud is and the different terminologies that AWS uses, and it will teach you a little bit about licensing, which, trust me, is a huge topic that organizations are struggling with. Now, to study for this exam, Amazon AWS have a free learning platform. They call it the AWS Skills Builder. Now, following the link that I will put for you in the description box of this video, I want you to do the AWS Cloud Practitioner Essentials. As you can see, it starts off with the benefits of AWS and why we need the cloud, and then it summarizes how we pay for the cloud. As I said, you have no idea how many CIOs and CEOs really struggle with payment to the cloud. It's a very complicated topic, so it's really good that you get an early introduction to it in this training. Next, you will learn compute. Compute simply means a server or a computer in the cloud. Amazon calls them EC2, and as they are in the cloud, you also get to learn the concept of load balancing. Now, as this is your first time learning these concepts, they will sound really foreign to you. It will feel like this is a lot of information, and that's because it is a lot of information. For you, it will feel like you're learning a new language. At first, it will be difficult. You will struggle to remember the alphabets, but then slowly and surely, you'll start to form sentences, and then you will gain confidence to be able to speak fluently. And that's what we're trying to do here. We want you to learn the language of cloud security. Now, in Module 3, you will learn about AWS zones, which is where the physical servers are. Now, as a cybersecurity professional, this is a topic that will come across a lot. When I help organizations that have sensitive data, there are rules and regulations on where this data can physically live. So this is something that you need to look out for as a cybersecurity professional. In Module 4 is everyone's favorite topic, networking. Now, if you've done the Google Cybersecurity Cert, then this concept will sound easier to you because you understand networking, and this will just be how Amazon AWS deals with networking in the cloud. Module 5 is about storage and database. While these are not security topics, but it's something that you will need to deal with because guess what? Storage and database is where the data lives. And as cybersecurity professional, our primary task is to protect data. And Module 6 will be your first introduction to security in the cloud. Now, one of the main benefits of learning cloud security is that you will get an excellent introduction to identity and access management topics. So this can be your sneaky way of trying to land a job in identity and access management, which is a huge area of cybersecurity that pays a lot with not a lot of people with the skills. So you really get to build a broad set of skills when you learn cloud security. Module 7 and Module 8 are the boring topics of monitoring and pricing, and at the end you get a practice exam. Now, people generally tend to underestimate the AWS Cloud Practitioner exam. I think it's a lot of topics, so pace yourself and take your time and study really well. Now, the exam is not free, so please go to AWS website and find out the price yourself. I don't put prices of things in my videos because the prices constantly change, so by the time you watch the video, the price may have changed, but also some organizations have different pricing to different geographical locations. So this is something that you need to do yourself. I'll leave all the links for you in the description box of this video. Now, as for passing the exams, some people find the free exam from AWS to be sufficient, whilst others tell me that they need more practice exams. If that's you, then I will leave links to additional practice exams for you in the description box of this video. So have a look at them if that's something that you need. Now, once you pass the exam, you will have a good introduction and a good knowledge of some of the definitions with AWS. However, by this point, you haven't really done much in terms of practical hands-on work when it comes to the AWS cloud. Therefore, the next exam that I want you to study for and pass is the AWS SysOps Admin exam. And for that, we will use one of my absolute favorite platforms that I have personally used when it came to learning cloud, which is A Cloud Guru. Now, I've used A Cloud Guru when it was used to called Linux Academy, and then it became A Cloud Guru, and a few years ago it got acquired by Pluralsight. Now, the good thing is, after the acquisition, A Cloud Guru is still pretty much the same platform. Now, when we go to Cloud Guru, which I'll leave a link to it in the description box, I want you to click on AWS and then click on Learning Paths, and then we scroll down and then we click on AWS Security. Now, this is intended to be a learning path that takes you from zero all the way to pass the AWS Security Specialty exam. And within that learning path, there are steps that get you to pass the AWS Cloud Practitioner, which you've already learned, and then the AWS SysOps Admin exam. Starting at the beginning, click on Novice, and as you can see, it will show you how to log into AWS, create an AWS instance, and start practicing right away. Next, it will take you through AWS Identity and Access Management concepts. Now, you might be familiar with them from your AWS Practitioner exam, so this will be a great chance for you to practice. Following that, on the Apprentice section, it will actually teach you how to pass the AWS Practitioner exam. So like I said, if you find the topics a little bit hard, you can go through them again in A Cloud Guru. So this way you have two really solid learning resources. Now, once you finish the exam prep guide, then you start to go deeper into AWS terminology. Those are essentially Amazon AWS's tools. Now, as we want to pass the AWS Security Specialty and before that the AWS SysOps Admin exam, you need to be really familiar with those tools. So A Cloud Guru will take you through all of that. Now, for the AWS SysOps Admin exam, Amazon AWS Skills Builder will also have a free training for this exam. However, I personally don't believe it's enough to pass the exam. Therefore, I really want you to focus on A Cloud Guru. Now, if we look at the topics in A Cloud Guru SysOps Admin Prep Guide, you can see that it starts off with deployment, provisioning and automation, then monitoring and logging, storage and data management. Then we have reliability and business continuity, security and compliance, networking, cost optimization, and then my favorite part, which is challenge labs. Trust me, this is where the real learning happens. It's in the labs, it's not in the books, and it's not on multiple choice exams. And finally, A Cloud Guru will give you 6 practice exams. In my opinion, it should be more than sufficient to pass. However, if you're still struggling, then I recommend you go over the practical challenges at least one more time and perhaps try to look for extra additional practice exams. In my experience, most people that I know and myself, we didn't really need to do that many practice exams, especially if you paid attention in the training and you've done all the practical challenges. Now, once you pass the AWS SysOps Admin exam, you will actually be more than qualified to start working with the cloud. I know some people who got not necessarily cloud security job, but general cloud job like a cloud support engineer or a cloud support specialist with those 2 certificates alone. So at this stage, you will have more confidence when it comes to the cloud. All of a sudden, these concepts don't sound so foreign to you. Therefore, you will be more than ready to start tackling the AWS Security Specialty exam. This is the exam that talks about how to secure the cloud and how to perform various cybersecurity activities within the AWS cloud. And for that, again, we will continue with our A Cloud Guru learning path. However, there are some modules that you can safely ignore. For example, there are AWS developer tools, which is 16 hours worth of content. You can safely ignore that. This is not part of the AWS Security Specialty knowledge. This is not really required to pass the AWS Security Specialty exam. Therefore, I recommend you go directly to the AWS Security Specialty exam prep guide. Clicking on the link in A Cloud Guru, as you can see, the topics look a lot like cybersecurity topics that you've learned in your Google cybersecurity cert. So you get to learn about threat detection, incident response. Again, you get to learn Amazon AWS take on these topics. So they really want you to learn the AWS tools that they have that you can use to perform these cybersecurity tasks. Now, just a caveat, in the real world, we don't actually use all of these tools. We might use one or two, but we might also use other tools from different vendors like CrowdStrike or Splunk. The next topic is security monitoring and logging. Again, it's a hugely important topic. Then you learn about infrastructure security domain, identity and access management, data protection domain, management and security governance, and at the end they give you practice exams to pass the exam. Again, when it comes to practice exams, I personally found a Cloud Guru to be enough. However, some people tell me that they need a bit more. Therefore, I will put additional resources for you in the description box of this video in case you need more practice exams. But I must caution you, this exam is not easy. It's a lot of topics and a lot of terminologies. Even I forget a lot of these things that this certificate talks about. I can't off the top of my head remember the name of every single tool in Amazon AWS. So you really need to study hard for this exam. Now, after you pass the Amazon AWS security specialty, the next step for you will be to add in some hands-on projects, and also you need to complement your cloud security knowledge with some broad cybersecurity knowledge, because cloud security doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists as part of an ecosystem within the cybersecurity world. Now, I'm gonna explain this to you in part 5 of this video, but the next step is one that a lot of people ignore when they try to learn cloud security, which is part 3 of this video, learning Microsoft Azure security. But before I show you how to add Microsoft Azure security to your skills portfolio, I want to show you the password manager that I personally use as a cybersecurity professional, which is also the sponsor of this video, NordPass. I personally use it because it's intuitive, easy to use, but more importantly, it has end-to-end encryption and it uses zero-knowledge architecture, which is important for my own privacy. But not only that, there are actually many benefits to using the NordPass password manager. You see, I use so many applications in my personal day-to-day life for social media, YouTube, email, and even work-related applications. So instead of going into each application and reset the password manually, I have everything stored in one place, which is NordPass. And I don't need to go and manually type the passwords each time I log in, because I simply use the auto login feature within NordPass. Not only that, but the passwords that I use, you can auto-generate them using NordPass, and the passwords that they auto-generate are actually complex by default, so I don't need to manually try to make up a complex password, which is really cool because once I configure it in NordPass, it actually auto syncs with all of my devices. You can also store other sensitive information in NordPass, such as your credit card number and any possible PIN codes. It will also do a health check on your password, so if you have an older password that's weak, then you'll get an alert to remind you to change that password. Now, as a cybersecurity professional, the feature that I really like is the data breach scanner feature. This will basically alert you if any of your passwords or credit card information appeared on the dark web, which will enable you to change those passwords and credit card numbers before any damage is done. They also have cool features like email masking, so when you're filling an online form and you don't want to receive spam emails, they actually create a decoy email address so that your email address is not sold to third parties. And if that wasn't enough, you can even go passwordless and use something like a passkey, which is what I've been recommending to organizations to use worldwide. But best of all, they've actually given us a really generous offer and a great deal that you can access using the link nordpass.com/UnixGuyNordPass and use the code UnixGuyNordPass to claim the best NordPass deal with a 30-day money-back guarantee. And back to the video. Now, to learn Microsoft Azure security, first I want you to start with the Microsoft Cybersecurity Analyst Certificate. This will give you sufficient knowledge in IT, networking, and operating systems, which is great if you're starting from zero, but it will also give you a great quick introduction to the Microsoft Azure cloud. Remember, learning cloud security means learning cloud fundamentals and cybersecurity fundamentals. Now, the other sneaky reason why I want you to do the Microsoft Cybersecurity Analyst Cert is because at the end of it, you get a free voucher to do the Microsoft Azure SC900, which is about security compliance for the Microsoft Azure cloud. And this will be the first Microsoft Azure cloud exam that I want you to do. Now, some people choose to skip the Microsoft Cybersecurity Analyst Cert and the Azure SC900, especially those who've done the Google Cloud Cert and they know a little bit about Microsoft Azure. I personally don't advise you to do that, but if you're really confident with your Microsoft Azure skills, then you can skip this step. However, in my opinion, I don't think there is a downside to doing the Microsoft Cybersecurity Analyst Cert and the Azure SC900. I think it's a great way for you to start, and even if you're familiar with some of those concepts, it will give you a chance to revise those concepts and learn them from a different angle. Now, the next cert that I want you to do, which will be similar and the equivalent of the AWS Practitioner, and that is the Microsoft Azure Fundamentals Cert, AZ900. Now, similar to the AWS Skills Builder platform, Microsoft also has a free learning platform. They call it the Microsoft Learn. So if we look at the Microsoft Azure Fundamentals training from the Microsoft Learn, which again, don't worry, you will have a link for it in the description box of this video, you will see that the topics look really familiar. They look similar to the AWS Cloud Practitioner topics, with minor naming convention differences. This is great because it means you can finish it faster. It will take you through the definition of what the cloud is and the shared responsibility model, some definitions of cloud services, and other important definitions. Now, some of you might think this is really basic, but believe me, I ask questions about this material in my interviews, and so many cybersecurity professionals fail to explain these things to me. Now, as a cybersecurity professional, knowing these cloud concepts is a non-negotiable because the majority of data now lives in the cloud. So you cannot be an effective cybersecurity professional if you don't understand the cloud. Now, this training might be enough for you to pass the exam. However, there is a really good training course for the AZ900 from Coursera, and if you do it, you get 50% off the cost of the exam, which makes it a no-brainer. So I highly recommend you go through the Coursera's prep guide and take advantage of this discount. Now, the next certificate from Microsoft Azure that we need to do is the Microsoft Azure Admin Associate. This is the equivalent of the AWS SysOps Admin. You can see how the concepts are exactly the same, which is excellent news because it means you will spend less time doing them, but it's also a great chance for you to review those fundamentals, especially if you're starting from zero. Now, the training that we need to do is also from a cloud guru. We go and we click on the Azure Security Pathway. Now, unfortunately, unlike the AWS Security Pathway, the Azure Security Pathway includes a lot of fluff and a lot of things that are not really necessary. Therefore, I want you to do only the components that I talk about in this video. Starting from the novice part, this will essentially be a review for your AZ900. So again, if the free resources from Microsoft Learn aren't enough and the Coursera prep guide is not enough, you can once again use Cloud Guru to help you pass the exam. If we go to the apprentice part, it has an excellent training, which is the Microsoft Azure Security Essentials. If we click on that, we can see the collection of topics. This will be your crash course in Microsoft Azure Security. Now, I know a lot of people who did the AWS Security Specialty exam, and all they needed to do was to go through this course, and that was enough for them to work in Azure Security. So some people actually stop here. However, if you want to have a long-term career in cloud security, then you have no reason not to do the rest of the trainings. So next, we need to go to the practitioner part of the Azure Security learning path, and this is where I want you to start skipping some courses. So the first one is the Cloud Security Fundamentals. This is a quick one. You can just do it quickly. However, the next two, which is the Network Cheat Sheet and the Code Name, you can safely skip those because our goal is to learn Azure Security. We're not trying to become Azure Infrastructure Specialists. Now, the course that I really want you to do, which is the Microsoft Azure Admin Certificate Prep Guide. This will be our prep guide to pass the Azure Admin Associate exam. As you can see, the topics are system administration heavy. This is where the bulk of our knowledge of Microsoft Azure as a platform will come from. It starts off with some supplementary information, then goes through Azure administration, governance and compliance, identity, role-based access control, Azure storage, virtual network, connectivity, traffic management, monitoring, and finally, it will give you practice exams. At this point, you should be really familiar with these topics, especially if you've done AWS security training. This will be a nice review for you, and everything you learned before will suddenly make a lot of sense. Now, after passing this exam, you can ignore a Cloud Guru, because the next exam that we need to pass is the Microsoft Azure Security Engineer Associate. And for this, we will use the Coursera prep guide, which comes with an awesome 50% discount for the exam. I've recommended this prep guide in my previous videos, and it is sufficient to pass the exam. And as always, if you feel that you don't have enough confidence to pass the exam, you can go on and do additional practice exams. However, as far as the material is concerned, it's more than enough to teach you all the concepts. Now, if we look through the topics, it starts off with secure access with Azure Active Directory. Now, believe me, this might be the most important part of this entire training. Learning Azure Active Directory is fundamental to you as a cybersecurity professional. Many attacks and compromises are related to Microsoft Azure Active Directory. So trust me, this is something you absolutely need to know. Next, you learn about identity protection and governance, platform protection, and some application security, and then secure your data at rest. This will be their take on DLP, and then security operations, and finally you get a practice exam. Now, there are other Microsoft Azure certifications and trainings that I personally don't think that you need to do as a priority. Remember, our goal is to land our first cloud security job. Our goal is not to become Microsoft Azure specialists. Therefore, instead of spending your time doing endless Microsoft Azure certifications, because they are addictive and I know people who are addicted to doing them, instead, I want your focus to be, once you finish those cloud security trainings, is to broaden your knowledge in cybersecurity. As I said before, cloud security doesn't exist on its own. It's part of an ecosystem of cybersecurity. Now, I'm going to cover all of this in part 5 of this video, I promise. But before we get to it, I need to quickly take you through the Google Cloud Security, which is part 4 of this video. Now, a few months ago, I found myself helping a really big bank in the UK with a project where they actually use Google Cloud for their data analytics platform. Now, I needed to do a cybersecurity assessment on their Google Cloud platform. Now, I have good knowledge in Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure, but I haven't really had much exposure to the Google Cloud. Therefore, to get quickly up to speed, I actually used the Google free documentation and training. This is similar to the AWS Skills Builder and the Microsoft Learn. They call it the Cloud Skills Boost. From that platform, I quickly did a couple of the free introductory courses and I read through the Google Cloud documentation, and I was able to quickly catch up with the project because, as I said, it's extremely similar to Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure. But not only that, cybersecurity fundamentals and foundation is exactly the same, whether it's on-prem, on the cloud, or anywhere else. Now, for the free training from Google Cloud, I want you to go to the Cloud Skills Boost as I'm showing you in the screen, and I want you to type Google Cloud, then click on Learning Path, and from there I want you to do 3 courses. The first one is the Google Cloud Computing Foundation Certificate, and the second one is the Beginner Google Cloud Cybersecurity Certificate, and the third one is the Google Cloud Infrastructure for AWS Professionals. I actually did the third one because it simply taught me how to convert from AWS to Google Cloud. Now, those trainings are a collection of presentations and videos, real nice and easy to follow, especially for someone who've learned AWS and Microsoft Azure. You will have an easy time following through. Now, if you're trying to land your first cloud security job and you've done Amazon AWS security and perhaps Microsoft Azure security, my usual advice is to do 1 Google Cloud certificate, just to show that you know something about Google Cloud. The certificate that I recommend is the Google Associate Cloud Engineer, which is really similar to your Amazon AWS SysOps Admin. This just shows that you have a basic understanding of Google Cloud fundamentals. Reason why I ask individuals to do it is because, as I said, some organizations make use of Google Cloud. So when they see that you have some Google in your resume, it will give you that extra edge. And if you happen to work in an organization that uses the Google Cloud, then you have no reason not to get really good at the Google Cloud. And for that, the exam that I want you to do is the Google Cloud Security Engineer Certificate. This is similar to the AWS Security Specialty and the Microsoft Azure Security Engineer Associate. Now, to pass those exams, there are resources from aCloud Guru and Coursera, but I'm not gonna go through them in this video. Instead, I'll leave those links for you in the description box of this video. You can simply go and do them whilst remembering that Google Cloud is not your priority. This is something that you should do after you learn AWS security and Microsoft Azure security. Some people skip Google Cloud. If you decide to skip it, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to maximize your chances of working in cloud security, then doing 1 or 2 Google Cloud training is actually a good idea. Which brings me to the most important part of this video, which is part 5, getting hired. To get hired as a cloud security professional, First, I want you to understand how cloud security fits within the cybersecurity ecosystem. And when you understand that, you will quickly identify a mistake that most people make when they're trying to land their first cloud security job. Cloud security jobs fall into a spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, some of those jobs will be pure cloud jobs. They will have the title security in the title, but the job itself will just be a cloud support or a cloud administration role. On the other end of the spectrum, some cloud security jobs are pure cybersecurity jobs. They just require you to have a little bit of knowledge in cloud. And then there are some jobs in between where you have a mix of cloud support and cloud administration plus cybersecurity tasks. Let me explain. For example, if the job is more of a cloud job than it is a security job, usually those jobs will have you doing system administration tasks and support tasks. Maybe you will be creating users, deleting users, configuring storage, configuring compute, and yeah, some of the tasks will have some resemblance of cybersecurity. Now, those jobs, some of them will have the title of Cloud Security Assurance Specialist or Cloud Security Engineer, even though none of the tasks are actually security. This is a lesson for you to know that titles in cybersecurity are meaningless. More often than not, the job title doesn't actually match the tasks that you do. So it's really important to look through the job description and not just the title. Now, on the other hand, an example of jobs that are more cybersecurity than they are cloud, these are jobs that will have you analyzing incidents and do investigations, but in a cloud environment. Some jobs even want you to do penetration testing in a cloud environment or do threat management where you take the logs from cloud and you onboard them to something like Splunk or any other SIEM, and then you do analysis over there. So yes, you need some cloud knowledge, but the job itself is pure cybersecurity job. Now, the reason why beginners who don't work in cybersecurity get confused about cloud security is because when they do a job search, and if they happen to come across a job that wants them to know Python and MySQL and programming, they immediately assume that all cloud security jobs require you to know these things. However, the truth is, these jobs are not really cybersecurity jobs, they are cloud infrastructure jobs. Yes, they've got the word security in the title, but the actual tasks are system administration and infrastructure tasks. Now, as for getting hired, a lot of people will simply be able to get a cloud security job just by doing the certificates that I mentioned earlier in this video. Some people will even be able to land jobs with a lot less. However, the idea is to do these certificates and continue learning up until you land your first cloud security job. Therefore, my recommendation to land your first cloud security job is as follows. Do the cloud security certificates that I mentioned above, then do some practical projects, and finally continue your learning journey as a cybersecurity professional. Now, as for the practical projects, I want you to do what we refer to as guided projects. Those are projects that you can do from certain platforms. The projects usually take 1 or 2 hours, sometimes long, sometimes shorter, but they give you a nice step-by-step guideline to be able to perform these projects, and they can give you a chance to practice some of the concepts that you've learned, or they can give you a chance to learn a brand new concept. Now, instead of going through these projects one by one, I'm gonna leave links for them in the description box of this video, so you can do them after you finish the cloud security certificates. Now, as for the second and extremely important part of the recommendation, which is continuing to learn as a cybersecurity professional, the skills that I want you to add are SOC analyst or blue teaming skills and GRC skills. The reason is, as I alluded to earlier, cybersecurity jobs that want you to have some cloud knowledge, they also want you to be able to function as a cybersecurity professional. For example, if you need to investigate a cybersecurity breach in a cloud environment, your cloud knowledge will come in handy, but you need to have SOC analyst skills in order to be able to analyze and respond to that threat. Not only that, in many organizations, they will also want you to be able to conduct cloud security assessment or risk management on cloud instances. And the only way you can do that is by having GRC skills. So a really smart way for you to land your first cloud security job is by doing cloud security certificates and then moving on to do GRC and SOC analyst training courses. This way, you will maximize your chances of landing a cybersecurity job, not just a cloud security job. Now, if you want to know how to build those SOC and GRC skills, then I recommend you watch this video where I list practical hands-on resources that you can use to build those skills in the fastest way possible without wasting time on nonsense. Check it out and I'll see you there.